You ready? It's the Roundtable with me, Robert Bannon.
Well, Broadway World, it's Friday and it's exclusive chat. I'm so excited to be here with you. You know, this season on Broadway, there's a show that I've been waiting so long, Lindsay. I can't wait to see the show. If you remember the documentary, if you've been hearing about the story, I mean, we're all fans of the people that are a part of this. Our next guest might be able to call Stephen Schwartz on his cell phone and Adrian Brody, too. I mean, she's got all the numbers, the digits in her phone because she's worked with everybody. Ferrentino is here. Welcome.
I'll take that. What an intro. Thank you. That's so generous and kind. And thank you. That's really so sweet.
Lindsay, because it's true. That's why. It's not kind if it's true. You
Thank you.
an
Thank you.
incredibly fun career. Your theater work has been prolific in the West End in the UK, and now you're coming here. This is your Broadway debut.
It is. It's really so thrilling. Yeah, I don't have the words for it, but yeah. I moved to New York when I was 17 to study playwriting and acting, and I'm 30. I just turned 37 now. So it feels like a real, full circle 20-year journey to from being a student and all the amazing teachers and things that you do along the way to see that name on the marquee is really exciting.
Now you're no stranger to New York theater. I mean, you have done a bunch of shows off Broadway. You've worked with some of the most prolific, and that's my word of the day, apparently. Prolific. Lindsay's here, and everything's prolific. You work with some of the most accomplished theater organizations in New York City. But there's something about that word Broadway. There's something about it.
Yeah.
Is it a milestone? Is it a bucket list moment? This is a special moment.
Yeah, I keep joking with my friends that you just do it for the tombstone, it's just like even if the show doesn't last, it's like it takes so much work to so many people have to say yes to make anyone's dream come true. And so I'm just trying to stay positive about the whole experience because it is a crazy thing and so much luck and privilege and being at the right place at the right time and people saying yes and yes and yes for years to be able to do that. And I think also I'd done off Broadway for so long that I don't know. I'm not sure I've given up on the dream of Broadway, but it felt like not in my career. And then I had this crazy idea for a musical. And then, 5 years, 7 years later, here we are. So yeah, it takes a long time.
A very good friend of mine last year had a show come to Broadway, and I said to him, once you're a Broadway playwright, or once you're a Broadway composer, or once you make your
Yeah.
Broadway debut, it's never taken away. That's forever. So
That's why I keep saying it's for the tombstone. It's just
for
for
the tombstone.
the tombstone. We're just doing it for the tombstone at this point.
It's the first of many, and this show is going to run. And I hear the word on the street is that it's going to be a blast. I've heard some of the music. I know a little bit about the story. But you have a tricky job because, writing a song I'm not saying it's not tricky, but you could write a
Yeah.
song, it could live on its own, but
Yeah.
your story has to live in the crux of this. So how did you take tell us what it's about before we get into the nitty gritty.
Okay, sure. So it's based on Lauren Greenfield's documentary, also called The Queen of Versailles, which follows the Siegel family and their sort of Jackie Siegel specifically on her sort of rise from being a working class girl who lives in a small town in upstate New York to all of the various choices that lead her to wanting to build the biggest home in America. And as you do, and sort of bankrupting themselves in the process as they hit the 2008 financial collapse and as they tried to build the Palace of Versailles in Orlando, Florida. And I'm from Florida. The Siegel family started buying pieces of my hometown, and I just became obsessed with this story as this microcosm of the American dream and all that is good and bad and ugly about the culture that we are all complicit in. And I just felt like these characters were so over the top and larger than life that they could sing. And yeah, Michael Arden sort of pulled the idea out of me. We met at a dinner party, and he said, "Do you have any crazy ideas for a musical?" And so I was like, I do actually. I only have one, and it's this documentary, Queen of Versailles. And he had just happened to watch it with his partner in scenic design, Dane Lafferty, and Michael got really excited about it. And then, I talked about it for a really long time, and everyone sort of stared back blankly at me and was like, "That's insane!" And it's a documentary, and how would you ever do that? And when you talk about the passion project enough times, it tends to, you like a magnet, you'll eventually find the people who are also magnetized by the idea. And Michael was really the first one that was, yeah.
Well, what a person to have been magnetized by, because if you're
Yeah. Yeah.
if you're watching and you don't know Michael Arden, you definitely know his work if it goes back to Once on this Island, or if you go to Parade and all. I mean, Stephen Schwartz and Michael Arden could go bowling with their award statues. They have
Yeah.
done a lot of work.
Yeah.
So for you, does the writing come first before a song? Was it always going to be a musical? How do you make those decisions?
Yeah, it was always going to be a musical. I couldn't figure out another way to adapt it because it just, like I said, it's the scale of the story is just gigantic. And so Michael and I decided we would like to offer it to Stephen Schwartz first as a sort of, as you do. And I remember laughing in Michael's face going, he'll never say yes, but sure, why not start there? And shockingly, I mean, he put us through the ringer before he said yes. And he talked to us and we had many meetings. I think the process lasted about a year before he said yes. And then he did, and then we were off to the races. Getting the rights was a whole other long process, but Michael, Stephen, and I met regularly, outlining the whole show together, figuring out where the songs went, what would be a scene, what would be a song, and then once we had agreed on an outline, which that was a whole multi-month process, then I went away and wrote the whole thing as a play, including all the places that I knew would eventually be turned into songs. And so that Stephen had these sort of like work packets to kind of start with, which were like sometimes like a poem or a picture or a monologue, and then we just started going back and forth. And I think it's certainly been the deepest collaboration I've ever been a part of, in that I've had an opinion on every single lyric in the whole show, and he's had an opinion on every single word in the book, and we sort of read each other's minds now, and have develop this incredible shorthand. And I've learned everything there is to know about musical theater from Stephen Schwartz because he wrote most of it. So he's an amazing mentor, and to his credit, I like to sort of say this all the time, but he hasn't had a new musical on Broadway since Wicked. And so to write his next new musical with someone 40 years younger who'd never written a musical before is actually insane. That's an insane thing to do. He could write with anyone. And so the risk that I think he takes on younger generation of artists is actually a huge part of who he is, and mentorship is a huge part of just who he is as a person. And I just always like to kind of recognize that, because it's still not lost on me that like my writing partner is Stephen Schwartz. It's crazy. And we're so close now. I don't think about it all the time, but it's insane,
Well, there have been a lot of great up and coming musical theater songwriters who have talked about the incredible mentorship that he's provided, that he has been open to so many of the next generation of the greats of this business, like you, Lindsey. And then when Lindsey's work is turned into movies, because that's coming, and she has done that, and more is coming, then she'll just be able to have movies and Broadway shows running and people wanting to work with her. I mean, this is it. It's your time now, Lindsey. Go. Let's go.
Thank you.
Let's go.
It's really exciting. Yeah, it's been a great last couple of years. I've been lucky enough to have a bunch of shows. I kind of thought my theater career was dead after COVID because I had a lot of shows get canceled. And so the last year or two of I had 2 shows in London, and this opening on Broadway has really felt like, thank God, because I just love theater so much, and I didn't want to give that part of my life up.
By the way, if you didn't know, now you know the Stephen Schwartz connection. The Adrian Brody connection from my intro was her show over in the UK, and I'm sure that Amy and the Orphans, which was an off-Broadway show, has got a life of itself as well that is to be continued. So there's lots of stuff you've got cooking.
Lots of stuff. Yeah, and I did this musical dance show also called The Artist, which we opened in the UK based on the film The Artist, the silent film. So I'm just trying to work in I'm writing animated movies and live action movies and musicals and plays, and I'm just kind of I've been in this place of just trying to stretch my voice in as many different directions and weird, unique collaborations as I can get into. Yeah.
So speaking of the family, I have a husband who's obsessed with real estate. We don't have any like lots of money, but
Yeah.
he watches YouTube home tutorials of multi-million dollar homes to fall asleep every
How
single night.
funny. How funny.
And talks about if he won the Mega Millions or was a multi-millionaire,
Yeah.
what would you do?
Yeah.
This story that you're talking about has got so much because we all have these moments of what would we do and what could we do and
Yeah.
how do we define success and why do we need stuff and all the
Yeah.
things that is
Yeah.
America. How do you have to obviously, I guess, find humanity and compassion and fall in love and find the crux of the characters you write about, the good, the bad, and the ugly. How do you approach this family? They're so over the top. They're controversial in a certain sense. There's
Yeah.
definitely a certain type of person, and
Yeah.
they're so how do you find a way to love them? You spend so much time with the spirit of them, the aura of
Yeah.
them.
I just want to say I loved the way that you said that question because I think there's been this skepticism or attitude about putting these people on stage. And I've heard a lot of, why would you put these billionaires on stage and they're not who we are as people. And I really buck up against the idea that putting a character on stage is the same as glorifying them and that you want in when you go to the theater to see people who are different than you, who make drastically different, often problematic choices than you, and to see where we actually do have commonality. And that I feel like I'm constantly in anything I'm writing trying to find characters that feel as much outside myself as I can. And then through the act of writing, and it's empathy, really. It's not sympathy, but it's empathy. It's radical empathy, trying to envision where actually your similarities are. And I think, that can be like the play I did with Adrian Brody, a man who was wrongfully convicted on death row, or someone with Down syndrome, like in my play Amy the Orphans. But it can also be a Republican billionaire who would think I have nothing in common with. And actually, the scarier thing to realize is that I have parts of me that are the same as her.
Sure.
And that there is because I am part of the same culture that she was raised in, and I am complicit in that culture living in America today. So, and we are all, whether we like it or not, in a capitalist society. So I think that bears examining, and that does not equate to we are putting her on stage to celebrate her capitalism. That is not what the show is doing. So anyways, I just want to say that I appreciate the spirit of which you asked that question, because I think that to me is so fundamental in why I would even want to make theater in the first place. Is why would I just put people on stage that I agree with? I don't want to go see those shows. So yeah.
Some of the greatest pieces of art have been by people who we don't necessarily automatically agree with, but we want to see the humanity and the story. And it's the
Yeah.
And listen, if I had $1 billion and I won the lottery tonight, I'd build myself a big. You don't know what you would do it until you're in that situation.
You don't know what you would do. And this is the thing, is like, we all want things. And maybe you don't want to build the biggest home in America, but everybody wants things. And then once you get that thing, very few people go, okay, I got the one thing I wanted and now I'm happy and I'm just going to quit and be in my happiness. It tends to be like that kid's book, when you give a mouse a cookie, that you get the cookie, but then you need the milk, and then you get the milk and you need a napkin. And we all, even me, I have now a Broadway show, which I thought is the pinnacle of my entire life. I'm sure there will be a new dream coming, So it's this inherently human, but also inherently American problem of ambition. And it's a wonderful thing to have ambition, and it's a scary, problematic cliff to always, be at the edge of. Yeah.
This time is a good time to see this show, because we're living with questions and ideas about what is America, what is success, should we do with our money. All of these things are real conversations that we need to be having. So see the show, and no one's telling you how to feel or about this family or anything. You'll make a decision yourself.
Go and make a decision. And I don't think it is clean. It is not meant to be clean. I don't care if you come out like, it's not a question of do I like her or not like her. It's like, do you understand the cultural moment that she was both born into and that we are still living in a country where the wealth disparity is very similar to what it was at the French Revolution. And that's a big part of the show too. So yeah,
Oh, I can't wait.
that's my soapbox about
I'm
it.
excited to see it. Listen, we love houses, and I've been to Versailles in Paris, and I saw the documentary, and I was like, these are
Yeah,
characters. These are
yeah,
made for movies. So
yeah,
I'm excited to see it up on stage.
absolutely.
You know, you say something, and I've often talked about this in my own little life in a much smaller thing. I wish, my brother wanted to be a police officer. He was a police officer and he was happy for the rest of his life. I came out, sparkly and glittery, and I have decided that I
Yeah,
wanted to be in the show business world. And there's
yeah,
always, another mountain. I could have the best me and you could have a million
yeah,
views, and I
yes,
need more, a million and one, and I need to, and it keeps
yeah.
going. Is that something that you love, or is it drive you crazy? Do you ever say, I'm proud of myself, I did it, I'm going to take a moment, or is it always on to the next one?
I, I struggle with that. I definitely struggle with that because I am a deeply competitive and ambitious person when it comes to my career anyway, and but I think that's why even in the beginning of this conversation, I'm like, I'm just trying to appreciate the fact that I have a show on Broadway and I could have had an amazing career for the rest of my life and never gotten to that mountaintop. So, um, I'm just trying to just feel very, very grateful for, this moment and whatever sort of happens with it. That kind of, I think it's important to have both, that opportunity is so lucky and privileged and that now cannot be taken away from me. And yet, of course I want it to go well. And of course I want to have another show on Broadway, so it's always going to be that way.
Well, I'm sure there will be, and I'm excited for all of that stuff. While we're talking, everyone, I want you to know that you can get it is the perfect show. It is the only, I believe, like one of two. There's not 50 new
Yeah.
musicals out here this year.
No.
So if you've seen all the rest and you're coming to New York City or you live in the tri-state area, you got to get your tickets and get them before the show opens. You got them at queenofversaillesmusical.com. The link will be below us. It's going to be in previews while you're watching this, but opening night is going to come around and in November, and you're going to want to get your tickets. So what does it mean for you? And we have an all-star cast,
Yeah.
incredible stacked group of people from beginning to end. They're all incredible singers and actors and dancers. You have the most incredible creative team. What's it like in the room to work together, and to build this family that's now going to take this undertaking to Broadway?
I think that this isn't maybe sounds like a cliche to say, but I have found that to be the most satisfying part of working on a musical because you develop them for so long. So, and then you're collecting people along the way. So you're collecting cast members that you just fall in love with and then end up writing for. And so little by little, we've built this cast and the designers and, Michael and his team and the choreographers, and you become friends with these people over, 5 years. We've been working on this show together. And I have found that to be the most moving part of the whole thing, both in the sense that you're writing for an ensemble of actors in that sort of old school way where I know the people, I know everyone's strengths, I know what he can do comedically, and I can write to that and throw pages, and they know the other drafts of it. And so we can just be in this deeper dialogue. But then also, I've just found really moving this thing that we're all working on, and then so much life happens in half a decade of working on a musical that there's been births and deaths and heartbreaks and breakups and weddings and that you go away and you live life and you keep returning to the same material, and then you go live life and you keep returning to the same group of people. And I hate using the word community, but you feel this real sense of, I guess, ensemble mentality and deep friendships and all examining the same questions that we're asking in our world. And then you can bring that into the rehearsal room. And you just get to know people in such an intimate, in an intimate way. That to me is, that's the best part of doing theater.
Absolutely. And you get to create this that will live, on forever, and people will be taking sides from this show in the future and singing these
Yeah.
songs in rehearsal rooms, and
Yeah.
it will
Yeah.
be done it's really incredible and exciting. I don't know how you all do what you do, because less than 1% of 1% of the world can get a show on Broadway, and you did it, Lindsey. For you, where the show is going to be playing over at the St. James's at
Yeah.
Legendary House. It's gorgeous inside. I'm sure it adds to the mystique of this entire show.
Yeah.
Do you take an active role in the creative process? Do you look at the sets and the costumes and you all are that collaborative in that way?
Yeah, I mean, the designers do the designing and Michael really leads that. But of course, and you're giving notes in previews if something doesn't make sense, or dramaturgically, sometimes a costume might be right for the character, but not right for the scene. And so the writers tend to try to be looking at the dramaturgy of that. And we're seeing sketches all along throughout the creative process. I try to really step out and let the director handle the design. But of course, to me, the most exciting part of being a writer is when the designers get their hands on the show and it suddenly becomes 3D, this thing that's been living in your head. And it's the craziest thing, especially on this show, because the props, I actually need to just shout out to the props department on this show, because it's a show about stuff. So Stephen and I will write, okay, he writes a lyric that like he's rhyming gnocchi with karaoke, and then they have to get gnocchi and karaoke into the show. And I write in a stage direction about a guillotine, and then they have to go build a guillotine. So, that's magic, because you dream it and then you come into the room and it's there. There's a live dog in the show. It's crazy. Writing musicals is completely insane.
Has a lot changed since the Boston out of town tryout? And do you dream of the show being frozen so you don't have to rewrite anything anymore?
I both dream of it, and I think I'll have a deep grief about it, because rewriting this show has been a part of my identity for the last 5 years. And, I think the show is very different than if you saw it in Boston. And, we did great in Boston, and but of course, people had criticisms and whatever. And it's like, that is why you go out of town. Yeah, the show was too long in Boston because we knew we were doing an out of town tryout. So you throw everything out at it, see what works, and then jettison the rest in the year between Boston and Broadway. I don't know how anyone does a new musical on Broadway without going out of town first, because we needed that audience reaction to write towards and learn from. And yeah, the show was always going to change between Boston and Broadway. That's always been part of the plan. So I'm excited for people to see it again, or to see it for the first time in New York.
Yeah, who do you hope comes to see it? Who do you think, who is this audience for? I'm gonna go. I mean, the gays are coming. My husband's coming. We're coming. It's
I think
Queen of Versailles. Come on, this is an iconic campy moment here. This is
it's
it.
an iconic campy moment. I think what's cool about it is that we are, I don't want to say fooling people, but you lure people in with the camp and the comedy and the tricks of musical theater, and then you little by little deliver a darker message. And I will say the show starts very fun and campy, and has also moments of sincerity, but also, moves deeper into darker and darker territory. And I think the cool part is that hopefully it is appearing commercial enough that you're inviting in people from both sides of the audience, and then actually presenting a social critique that I'm hoping, uh, both sides see
And take away. I
and
think
take away. Yeah. That's purposeful. And to me, that feels like subversively political. But I think you'd have to see that to really get what it is that we're doing. But this is I'll get back on, don't start me on my soapbox about the difference between putting someone on stage and glorifying them. But I really do think that that's a huge part of it. We really are looking in a sort of Brechtian way at this moment in American culture. Yeah.
And guess what, everybody? At the end of the day, as the writer, her point of view, she's got a message that she hopes you get. And I'm sure it transcends politics and party lines. It's about humans and humanity. And
Yeah.
everybody can see a little piece of themselves in that. So this is a show for everybody to get a ticket to and see,
Yeah.
especially this holiday season when your family has driven you crazy and you need to get out of the house and you're visiting in New York City. Get a ticket. Come on down.
Totally. And you will laugh, and it's fun to laugh at characters, and then it's fun to feel for those characters that you were just laughing at. And like I said, it's really, to me, the best part of writing is when you come into a show and you hold a character really far away. I have nothing in common with this person on death row or this billionaire. And then by the end of it, you're like, I am actually just like that person, or I have pieces of me that are.
I don't know you, but I was reading your bio, and I used all sorts of controversial means to find information about you, like ChatGPT. And I chat, and your family, your father is a showbiz guy, and
Yeah.
you followed into the showbiz footsteps, and now you have your own, highlight reel of incredible projects and your own legacy that you're building. Do you look back? Do you get nostalgic about being another generation of crazy showbiz people?
Yeah, it's so in the blood of my family. Like my great grandfather was a film producer, but of course that had nothing to do with all those connections. I wish I was an FO baby. All those, those are so far gone. And my dad's a magician. My dad's a comic magician, and my uncles were comedy club magicians. So it's just a part of, not in connection, but a part of who we are, of just these like it's a loud group of crazy storytellers. And so and also my dad being a magician, I think having a daughter that says they want to be I want to be a playwright. He used to be like, theater, like, what are you going to make a living in theater? And I'm like, you're a magician, you're a fucking magician, like you can't say that to me. So it allowed me to kind of pursue what I wanted, even if being a playwright seemed illogical at the time. Yeah.
That might be one of my favorite lines I've ever heard on the show. I mean, you're going to judge me about how am I going to make a living? You're a magician. That's, well, you're a magician as well. You got this brand original, beautiful Broadway show up on its feet. It's coming, and you can all get your tickets. And I'm excited, Queen of Versailles musical.com. And when you're out the movies, or when people are with you and you watch a documentary or you're streaming something, are you able to separate it? Or are you always like, is there a musical in here?
I'm always on the hunt. I don't, yeah, everything I write about is just chasing my own interests and curiosities. And I find it really difficult, especially because now I'm adapting so many documentaries. I have a few movies that are after documentaries and a few musical projects after docs. And I find it really hard to not go, like, if I'm deeply interested in something, I'm going to try to get the rights to it. Like that's just how it goes. Yeah.
I get it. Well, guess what? When I come to your show, while everyone's enjoying the show, I'll be like, which person in the cast do I wish I could do an interview with? So I
Yeah.
understand my own crazy way. Sometimes
Yeah. Yeah.
turn it off. So
Can't turn it off now.
it's never going to happen. I'm so excited. Thank you for spending time with us. I had such a great time talking to you. I'm so
Thank
excited for the
you.
show Break Legs. Welcome to Broadway officially.
Thank you. So it really means a lot to hear that, be
I'll,
reminded of that. Thank you.
I'll see you at the show.
See you at the show.